Turn 11. So this group's been captured. They're going to start being escorted off. They'll probably escort them via the road. These groups are still going to be maneuvering to try to get position. They may try to take a shot from there. If they're within range, they should be within range. This group will have to turn to try to take a range. Well, let's see. Yeah, this group will have to. This group is going to reorder. They'll spend their, if they can move, they'll reorder single file. And these guys will try to move out, and these guys will try to move out. And these groups will just spend their entire turn about facing. And they're going to start negotiating their way there, even though there's a lot of rough terrain, so they probably can't make it. Even if they charged, I don't think they could make it because they'd only get to go 9 inches. And they can't charge through the rough terrain anyway. So, yeah, they're just going to negotiate their way through. They'll move 6 inches in that direction. And these guys will move. The armored foot can only move 6 inches, so they're going to move. Let's see, 2 inches, and then move 1, 2, 3, 4 this way with their escorts. So let's see if they can fire. They need to roll a 12 to fire these guys. Nope. These guys, 7 to move. Yes. 7 to move. Yes. 7 to move. No. So they're going to sit still. So they will lose their marker. They will each gain a marker. They will go. Basically, they will just get their nose out into the clear. So they'll be able to move, regular move that. They will reorder. We'll arrange it so they're on the edge. They reorder from essentially column to line. And then we'll take them 4, 1, 2, 2.5 to straighten. So that's 5, and then another 3.5 forward. They didn't move, so and each of these groups will get a marker. Let's see, do you move? Do you lose move when you're fatigued? I hadn't looked at that. Fatigue says no, it doesn't say anything about movement. All right. So that's it for turn 11. Turn 12. Now we have some strategic decisions to make. You can't charge through rough terrain, so they cannot. Neither side can be charged. So all they can do is move towards each other. They're going to rest. They're going to rest and try to get rid of that fatigue, that potential fatigue from their movement. These guys are going to move. Let's see, are they within range? They are. Some of them are. They're going to move up and then attempt to shoot. They are out of range, so they're going to move up and attempt to shoot. And they're going to move out and then do an about face. So they'll move about half movement. And they will attempt to move out as well. So to move, 7. Yes. 7, no, 7, no, 7, yes. So they can move and they can move. And this group will continue to move. And this group is going to move up, and this group is going to move out. They're going to try to get a flank in. So let's see, they can move 9. So that's going to be enough to bring them into contact. No, wait, that's not right. 9. All right, so it's 9 exactly, so they won't. They'll move, say, 3 to the village, and then 3 more into the village. And then they will wheel. That's going to be 7. Actually, that'll be 7, 4, 9 for their wheel. No, you know what? It makes more sense just to do a right face and move this way. 5.5. That makes more sense. All right, so add fatigue there. They're not being attacked, so they're not going to be forced to move probably, unless they can fire. Let's see if they can fire. 12 to fire. No. Well, no, they won't have to move. That's right. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. You know what? Yep, no, I already said they're going to move, so they're going to move. They'll move about 6. And they will be able to move right to the edge of the field here. They're going to lose their fatigue marker, so I'll just add it to them. They get a fatigue marker, and then they move 6 more down the road. So they'll be off the board on the next turn. We'll dress that up in a little bit. And they will lose their movement markers. So that's the end of turn 11. Turn 12. Turn 13 should be a little more interesting. Turn 13. Move and attack, move and attack, move up, potential attack. These guys will move off the board. Fire, fire. Let's see, those guys were supposed to move last turn, weren't they? No, they didn't. They couldn't move. Move, move. All right, so can they move? 7. Yes. Can they move? 7. So we'll just have them meet halfway in between. It's not a charge because they can't charge through the rough terrain. So no check needed there. This group will be able to move 5 and then 2. So to there. And we'll take this group off the board. And we'll see if they can fire. So let's see. They do their move. They can do 4.5. That'll get them clear. And then they'll do a facing change to face that way. They're only going to get to move 4.5. Trying to get to the edge of the woods. Now these two groups will attempt to fire. Need a 12 for them. No, so close. For them, no. Alright, so they moved, they didn't move, they moved, oops, they moved, They're moving, but that doesn't really matter because they're moving off the board. I'll take them off at the end of the turn. So that leaves us melee to resolve. This time, hey, they're actually facing forward. They're going to get a full 24 because they're wielding pikes. They are not fatigued. They are medium foot. Attacking heavy horse. I mean, they're heavy foot attacking heavy horse. 1 die per 4 men, 6 kills. They have their full complement of 24, so they get 6 dice and a 6 kills. Nine. Heavy horse versus heavy foot. 3 dice per man, 5 or 6 kills. 36. Five or 6. So 1, 2, 3 hits there. So 3 hits on the first group. That's a lot more there. Let's see, well, no, a lot more. 5. So 8 total. And then, woo, 6, 7 more. So a total of 15. So 15 out of 24. Instability check. Before I go removing any casualties, the instability check for them is 7 or better. 7 or better for them to stay on the board. They did. But they're taking 15 casualties. So there's only going to be 9 of them left. So a difference in losses of 15 plus a die roll, 45. They have 15 versus 9 left, so that's 6. So that's 51, a difference of 51. And a difference of 51, 9 left. That just gives the difference of 51. The heavy foot, the 5 they have left only add up to 20. The 9 they have left only add up to 45. So that barely makes up that makes up all but 6 of the difference. So the heavy horse with 9 per for 15 is well over 100, so they surrender. And at this point I'm going to call it, because these guys can't even activate to shoot them except on a 12. Those guys are captured. These guys are by themselves now, and they're probably going to be fatigued by the time they attack. So yeah, I think we're going to call it there. It looked like that route that took those forces off the board were different. Maybe if I adjudicated different that missile fire didn't require the activation since they're not in their face, because I think that's what it's meant for. Peasants activating to attack is attacking in your face against, armed men versus shooting from a distance. So that could have made a difference. That was interesting. That's all I can tell you. Made some mistakes, learned some things, and we'll take a look at adjusting the scenario or a different scenario or making different adjudications and see what happens next time. Hope you enjoyed it.
And I'm going to wrap this up with, a wrap-up, sort of a post-mortem, post-game analysis, if you will, of what just happened. Lessons learned, basically. Lessons learned situation. One thing I've learned is organization is key from a game playing standpoint. I printed out some of the rules and kind of reorganized them a little bit, but I left out a crucial set of rules, morale for being charged by cavalry. I left that out, so I had to look that up on the computer during the course of the game. And it was kind of a mishmash. I tried to put things that were laid together. It ended up being like 5 pages worth of stuff, so I was flipping around. So a little more organization there would help. Maybe a flow chart. I'm a flow chart kind of guy. Maybe a flow chart to show the flow of play will be interesting. A list of the units, because I kept kind of flipping back and forth. Okay, which units do I have on? Which units do I have off? Because some units were getting driven off the board or evaporating before the others got on. So keeping track of the forces a little better than what I did. I wanted to, what I was trying to do with dice for the individual figures and the cardboard dice trays and just sort of the cloth map with the flat terrain on it. I thought I could push it around, and I've tried this. It's the second time I've tried this, and the cardboard still catches on the little rubber flat terrain. My solution was I'd gotten a PVC, a flexible PVC plastic cover, but the lights glared too much on it, so it wouldn't be good for video. I think that would be a solution if I was doing that, to cover it all up for a smooth surface where I could just maneuver the cardboard around. And the cardboard was made a little small for the forces I was using. There's no edge to grip it on. That's also a big thing. I think maybe the scale is off as well. The scale of the figures and the units compared to the map space that I'm working with. So it may be better to have, instead of having dice stand for individual figures and then having the numbers up to kind of indicate what type of figure it was, or which particular unit it was. And I was taking, for those numbers, I was taking kind of inspiration from the NATO figures from Ford War games, where an X in a box is infantry. So that was for me for heavy foot, and then armored foot would be the 6, and light foot would be the 4. And in the NATO symbology, a square with a slash through it is cavalry. So a 3, which is a diagonal slash, would be your heavy horse, and your 2 would be your light horse. That wouldn't leave anything for medium force, really. And then the 1, artillery, is again a silhouette with a dot in the middle in the NATO symbology. So to me, that made sense for archers. And it worked out being able to just look and identify, but with all the disadvantages to using that, the trouble I had knocking the dice over and everything, I don't think it worked very well. And again, like I said, I don't think the unit scale to the ground scale worked. So maybe more using dice, the number on the dice represents a number of figures, and just using, that way you only have a handful of dice. So instead of having 24 dice, each of the units, I was going to do 30. That was too big to fit on the cardboard trays, so I made all the units 24. But for 24, you could just have 4 dice showing 6 on it. And then the difference in colors, and you could just put down some on a marker and say, okay, this is your heavy foot, this is your armored foot, this is your light cavalry, this is your archers, what have you. So I'll probably try it that way the next time I try it. That'll provide more room for maneuver and for maneuvering around the different types of terrain and everything. So you can decide, do you want to take the long way around, but it's faster to move, or do you want to kind of plod through the way some of the units were having to plod through the terrain? As for the battle itself, what did I learn? Well, something I already knew: dice are fickle. I mean, how many failed rolls did we have? Rules are hard. I missed a lot of rules. The quote unquote Flemish pikemen of the defending force, they were supposed to get a +1 on their morale rolls, but I don't think it would have made a difference. I have to go back and look at that part of the video to see if they were just 1 away from passing morale. But I don't think it would have made that much of a difference, because, I mean, morale, I mean, the heavy horse were just dynamite. Cavalry charges are powerful in Chainmail. I mean, you've got to make a morale roll just to stand up to that charge. Just to stand up to the charge, you've got to make a morale roll. And then, you get hit. You need to get on top of archers as soon as you can, because they will pick you apart from a distance, because they get automatic hits. And those arquebuses, which didn't have much use because the peasants weren't rolling to be able to use them, but they're pretty powerful because they hit. If they roll the number, they hit per figure. They're shooting per figure. It's not just this group of figures gives you this many hits. It's every one of those figures could potentially be a hit, depending on how close they are when they fire those things off. And put things in the right order, think things through. For some reason, I thought Lightfoot was moving 12, and then the heavy horse moved 12, and the Swiss moved 12. I was thinking they were all in the same order, and so I said, well, we'll screen with the Lightfoot archers, and they'll take some shots as the other units move up. But really, what I should have done with that group is the Swiss are really good with morale. They don't have to make those morale checks versus cavalry charges. I should have put them up front and had the archers at least that 3-inch range behind them, so they could do indirect fire across, so they could still get their hits in. It wouldn't be as effective, but they'd have those Swiss units up front guarding them to keep them from taking a hit and then routing into the Swiss and routing the Swiss, which is what happened during the game. So thinking a little more about how the units interact and work. And heavy horse is just dynamite. I mean, they hit those guys in the back and they annihilated them. Just annihilated the unit. And this is really, when you look at the way that game played out, and this may not be emblematic of Chainmail. I haven't played a ton of Chainmail battles. But when I have played Chainmail and seen Chainmail played, it seems like it's really a morale rule set. It's not a beat your enemy to death rule set. Unless, of course, you have heavy horse, in which case you can beat them to death. Because if they don't have heavy horse to counter you, they may be done, or enough archers to just pick them apart from a distance. I think that's basically it. So be more organized, be thoughtful of the ground scale to figure scale, and how to manage moving the units around to help the game move with a pretty decent pace. And just think about how your units are deployed. I guess the other thing I would do is I might, instead of rolling randomly to bring the defending units on, because I think that put them at a disadvantage, being able to match units to take it, because they didn't have enough units on the board to take advantage when the Swiss heavy foot got routed off by the retreating archers, is maybe plan it out more of a plan. Okay, there will be, 2 light horse in the vicinity that can arrive on turn 1, and then there will be some pikemen that can arrive on turn 2, and things like that to get the forces on. Especially if I'm doing it with points where you're making the 2 sides even on points. If one side gets all their units on the battlefield first, they're at an advantage because the points were balanced, but the forces are not. And that's part of war, of course. But I think if you're going to use a point system, it behooves you to make sure that both sides have a chance to get all their points on the board at about the same time, so that it's the generalship and the maneuver and the dice that settle the thing, instead of just, half my guys didn't make it on until the first half were wiped out. And I want to think some more about peasants with distance weapons. It makes sense to me that if somebody's in their face, the untrained, basically, peasants have to roll to defend themselves, roll to attack. But from a distance, should that make as much of a difference? From a distance, should they be able to say, well, we'll just blast away, maybe make them less effective, maybe a negative to the die roll for the distance weapons, whether it's bows or the arquebuses, so that they're useful in combat. And maybe it worked out the way it's supposed to, where peasants, even if they're at a distance, even if they're facing the side or the back of the heavy horse, the knights on horses, they're just so intimidated, they're very likely not to try to stir them stir the pot, as it were, to draw their attention by firing on them. So that's my sort of insights that I gleaned from the battle, both within the battlefield and within, and from the high level of playing the game. Any observations or comments or suggestions would be excellent if you would like to provide them. So I hope you enjoyed this little scenario that I played out. I may redo it with lessons learned. I may see if I can come up with something else. I may look at, playing with more mixed forces to test the balance of the system a little better. I wasn't sure if just having a large number of low point forces versus a small number of high quality forces how balanced that would be, or how balanced it's even supposed to be. I mean, balance is hard, right? It's interesting to think about what that battle would look like in terms of a campaign, because you had a group of light horse charge off the board chasing routed units. How many of those guys would survive? What would happen to these units that just got burst to pieces against the heavy horse? But man, those heavy horses are something else. All right, I'm signing off. Until next time.